So this one is actually a brief one to the one that's going to follow this. I'm going to do 2 videos on here in the Tao Talk section today because I have 2 inspirations this morning, and I've just remembered what the other one is. So everything's in balance, the idea of the yin yang. Yes, that's true. My client and friend said this to me today, and I appreciate the intention with which it comes forward, which is a level of accepting, which is really helpful, right? In life, you actually have to accept what is, because it's essentially the past. There's nothing you're going to do about that. It's done. And then you decide what you want from there. Basic laws of attraction. See what is, accept it, be aware of the contrast, be aware of what you don't like, recognize that as a creative point to come from, right? And then think about where you would like to go, what you would like to focus on, what you would like to have next, right? Because it's only from contrast that you create anything. If everything was easy, you wouldn't create shit. And this world would actually be very, very boring. So there's a natural law of the universe playing out here of creativity spurred on by, I don't really like how that doesn't work or is slow or feels uncomfortable or whatever it is, right? We created couches, which are very, very comfortable things because we wanted to be more comfortable and probably warmer, sitting high up off the floor, and fashion. You needed a couch because sitting on the floor in those big gowns with corseting and shit, it wasn't going to happen. So hello, chairs. Of course, if any of you do work with me, I get you sitting back on the floor. Why? Well, we don't wear corsets anymore and we can sit back on the floor and it's better for your back and better for your body and it makes you stronger and it keeps you healthier and all that stuff. But this idea that some people have good karma and some people have bad karma and blah, blah, blah. I never see karma as good or bad. I see karma as a frequency tuner. What karma is doing is it's bringing to the surface your awareness so that you can choose to be truly creative. And when you want to be creative because you're stuck in a bit of contrast you don't like, hopefully, eventually you turn inwards. See, when we start out in this life, we start out as very vulnerable babies. Hi, whoever that is. We start out as very vulnerable babies and we go out into the world and we seek to control it to make it safe. And what we actually do is we put little shadow pinches on our light because we're trying to stay safe within that realm. And so wherever a parent is slightly dysfunctional or something is slightly unsafe, we as little baby narcissists start changing our behavior, and we call this trauma patterning. And that's why most of it happens before the age of 7. That's because actually the brainwave state you're in is basically a trance state. You're in delta and theta brainwaves in those first 7 years. Then you start going into alpha and beta after it. So when you're in this learning phase, traumaing phase, you start developing all these patterns, and all these patterns create shadows on your freedom to radiate a great frequency. But this is how it's meant to be. This is, hey, Jacqueline. Yeah, you haven't seen the Tao Talk. Yeah, super fun. Thank you. So basically going out there into the world, try to make it safe. That's what children are doing. That's what we end up doing as adults. And there is a second phase to our life. This is the school for souls. You go out there, you do your best to enmesh, control, narcissistically manipulate. We all have that stuff in us, right? You go out there and you try to do all that stuff. Oh, by the way, Jacqueline, you need to get in touch. And then at some stage, you have been slapped so hard by life. Usually in the case of people coming to me, it's severe chronic disease, right? That you go, there's got to be another way. Or a lot of people come to me with massive relationship stuff. Why can't I get a partner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, well, let's talk about what you're doing. Let's bring it back to you. I don't talk about how shit your partner is, right? I can acknowledge where they're doing things that aren't great, but we're all doing things that aren't great, and you did pick them. So let's have a look at why you're in the situation you're in. And you see, the thing is, when you change, a person reacting to you changes because they have different content to react to. So you can actually change everything from in here. You cannot control how that person is, but as you change your frequency, what happens in your life changes. So when my friend and client said to me, some people get good stuff, some people get bad stuff, but it's all in balance, he's right, but not because I get good stuff and you get bad stuff, but because karmically, karma is always trying to balance you as an individual. This life, it's not about me. It's about you. It's an individual sport, whether it's a relationship, a family, whatever it is. It is an individual sport on the way to your enlightenment. And the better you get at it, the better everything and everyone around you gets, because they're getting the best of you, right? And it's about self-honoring, self-awareness, and self-acceptance of all those little shadowy weird things, right? That are really just shadows on your mechanism. They're not even your essence, right? It's just something your body has imprinted to. And I see this as mechanics of the Maya. So you're not your body. You're not your mind. That's the message of the Kriya Yogis, right? So when you get to that point and you start turning inwards and you start letting your body guide you, what happens is the frequency changes. And it doesn't mean that there isn't stuff out there happening that's not annoying. Of course there is. It's life. It's 3D. People are dicks, But what happens is you become the center. You become the easefulness in your life. And so life is suffering. When the Buddhists say that, they're saying because you're so caught up and reactive in it and you're unconscious. And the more conscious you become, the more you become the center of the storm, the easier everything gets. Why can some people manage millions of people every day? Sadhguru manages 10 million volunteers worldwide. And people are like, oh, he's got people to help him, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, how do you think he got there? Easefulness. The man does a lot of stuff, especially for a projector, right? And guess what? Volunteers are not paid. They have no incentive to do a really good job other than whatever is in their heart at the time over the job that they are doing. And I have been in an ashram as one of those volunteers. And I can tell you, we can be half-hearted, angry motherfuckers because we don't want to do it. And yet something in us has dedicated ourselves to it. And that's just an interesting fight to be in your own internal reality. Anyway, if you want to create a balanced, amazing life, you have to see every story is not finished yet. You're not done. As long as you're here, you're cooking. As long as you're here, you're learning. My father used to say, when you stop learning, you might as well be dead. Well, I have never hung out with an enlightened master and not seen them learning. Enlightenment means that you see yourself totally. That's all, right? It doesn't mean you're not learning stuff. It doesn't mean you're not bouncing out there off stuff going, what is this? What is this thing that I'm playing with now? Of course they are. They're in a body. It's an experiment. The whole thing is one giant experiment. And if you think that your reality is you're never going to get anywhere, you never will. If you think you're never going to get a partner, you never will. I used to say to myself, all the good ones are taken, and the ones that I like always leave me. These were two narratives I had. I don't have this narrative anymore. I do see what's going on in the dating world, and it is quite complex, and that's a whole different discussion. But if you exist, there is someone who can mirror you that exists. So it's not that all the good ones are taken. It's not that, guess what? All the ones left me while I was telling the narrative that the good ones always leave. And yeah, I picked up those narratives from elsewhere and I created enmeshment trauma around it to try and keep them from going. And what happened? I gave up myself. They were no longer interested. That's the lesson there. You enmesh into something and don't hold your own space, the dynamic, vibrant, strong person that they were actually interested in, you suddenly become not that, So if you want your life to be magic, you have to realize that it's all about you and it's all about your frequency, and your frequency attracts everything in your life, everything. And I do mean every disease that you might ever get, every horrible thing. If you can start to see that that is something to do with a frequency that you are connected to, that you have an ability to sit into or fight against, that your easefulness in that can change everything. And your ability to see the expansiveness of this universe, which is ever expanding with the exception of some red zones, then you will see that you can get whatever you want. But people get up every day and they tell themselves a story. And they tell everybody else that story. And that story becomes their reality, because when you put words to it, there is frequency, sound, vibration. And vibration is vibration is vibration. And it bumps up against other vibration and it attracts shit to you. The biggest misnomer in this world is that you're doing anything. You're not. You are an electromagnetic force and you are attracting stuff. That is all. Anyway, would love your comments, etc., etc. Jacqueline, I need to get in touch with you. I was like, I need to do that. So I will. Like, comment, do all the things. And I'm about to drop another one all about health. And it's going to kind of go along the same lines, and it's going to be a little bit hard hitting. So I shall see you there. Erin Zen Warrior, signing out.